So parents call us regularly, especially now that everyone's back in school. We didn't have this. We didn't have a lot of this happening. We didn't have any of it happening during COVID, but they want to know, what are their legal rights? What can they do when they're finding out that they believe their child with a disability is being bullied? So one of the things that we start with, there's a few things. We want parents to keep a record. We want parents to understand their state bullying, the state bullying policy and their district's bullying policy. They want to keep documentation. We'll talk a little bit about how to utilize a 504 or an IEP plan, and really think of it, not just from what some people, when we think about those myths, oh, they're being bullied, we just want it to stop. Really far more serious. It can be far more serious when this is a child with a disability that is involved. So with that, we're going to ask, we want you to think about, you want to be getting everything in writing. You want to be collecting everything in writing. Schools have reports, incident reports, that kind of information, and it can come from lots of different people in the school. Can be the student can be putting in an incident report. In the case of the family that Bethany talked about, the little girl, in the process of us figuring out what we could do to fix this, stop it, stop the retaliation even that continued to happen. One of the things was about that child having access to bullying incident reports that were readily available on the counter in the office of that middle school. And she utilized them. Every time it happened, she would go and write it. It would get on record. So any of these records are really important for families to make sure that they're getting copies of. It should include the date of any of these incidents, these events, who was involved, who witnessed, if there wasn't witness, how were things reported? It's important that the child's account of that event is documented. We want to make sure that all of those communications with teachers, with dates and times, are really important. And also what action has been taken, especially if, as a parent, or more importantly, as the student doesn't feel like, well, this action was taken, but it's still happening. Nothing's changed. So getting all that details is really important. And again, if there are reports that the school filed with the police or any other state agency, then that information is important also. As a parent, what's really hard to do, super hard to do, because no one wants to hear that their child's being bullied, especially when it impacts their education, that child's not wanting to go to school, that they're not having access to their education, is keeping our emotions out of it. It's almost impossible. But when we start putting things in writing, it's really important that as you're creating your timelines, as you're writing your emails, we're not, and this is hard to not put words like I feel, I believe, this is what I know. You want to stick with those facts, because the facts will then push towards a resolution that's going to be long-term and effective. That could, excuse me, folks, hold on here. That again can include if there was any physical evidence, taking pictures. If you went to an emergency room or a doctor or a therapist, those kind of records, all of those things are really important as you're gathering data. One last thing, Bethany reminded me of this yesterday, was, and this is another hard piece, schools have a right, have a responsibility to keep your child's information private. They also have the responsibility to keep the bullies, that child, those students' information private. The school will take action, but you do not have the right to know what those actions are, because that is part of the all children, that's part of their privacy That's their right to privacy within a school system. And that's hard. That's hard. What you will get notification of is something happened in order to stop. And that's what we'll talk about the school's responsibility from here.